Hey everybody, Ralph Schudel coming to you guys live alongside Andy Evans. Andy, it's been a long trek since Indianapolis. It was a long night. I got to bed about 6 a.m. How about you?
It was about the same for me, yeah.
I haven't changed clothes. I'm wearing the same thing I wore in Indianapolis. But anyway, we're here live at the Woody Hayes Athletic Center. As you can see behind us here, we're back in Columbus talking bowl game. Not college football playoff, but we're talking about the Cotton Bowl Classic. We're heading back, the Buckeyes back to Dallas for the first time since the 2014 season when they won the first inaugural college football championship. Andy, what are your memories from that evening?
Oh man, 2015, there in early January. I was surprised, honestly, to see Ohio State when they came out and they won in the dominating fashion that they did against Oregon, 42-20. Was even more surprised, quite frankly, you know, the few days or a week before, excuse me, that they beat Alabama. So Ohio State, what they did in 2014 was nothing short of remarkable. Since then, we've seen them win in a dominating fashion in that Fiesta Bowl against Notre Dame the following season. Of course, we know what happened last year. Now, here we've got a big bowl game coming up, the Cotton Bowl with USC.
Yeah, and it's like Jerome Baker told us today that, you know, they've dreamt about this game. They've played USC in the video games, you know, and now you actually get to see them play. And another player that's out there is that Sam Darnold character. You know, a lot of people have him touted as the #1 quarterback. It could go out in the draft. If you're a Cleveland Browns fan, he could be heading towards your team, depending if he comes out early. What do you think of this USC team, just initial impressions?
Sam Darnold, #1, he's obviously the cog in the offensive wheel there. He's really what makes it click. He hasn't, I don't think, had quite the season that he maybe wanted to follow up with last year, at least from a statistical standpoint. Now, he threw for a little over 3,000 yards last year. This year, he's over 3,700 yards, so he certainly surpassed what he did last year in that regard. 31 touchdown passes. He had 26 at the end of the season. He's got 26 right now. However, the one stat that he kind of didn't improve on was his interceptions. He had 9 all of last season. He's got 12 right now coming into this bowl game, but still, Sam Darnold, a very, very dangerous quarterback. I mean, this kid's tall, he's big, he's got a rocket, he can fling it down the field, he's got a good receiver to throw to, and Deontay Burns. So this kid, like you said, he may be the #1 pick in the draft next year. So that's kind of scary for the Ohio State defense.
Now, admittedly, I haven't seen much of Darnold since last year's bowl game against Penn State, but if anybody was checking out Capital One Bowl Week last week and happened to stumble upon that game, it was an instant classic, I believe, between Penn State and USC. A lot of people attributing that as being the comeback game for both programs. So now let's catch up with the Buckeyes, the team that you care about here. Not that, you know, no shot at USC, as I realize as that sentence comes out of my mouth.
We may have a couple of USC fans who are watching, but probably more Buckeyes out there.
But since we last caught up with you guys in Indianapolis, Ohio State obviously victorious against Wisconsin, did not make the college football playoff. Understandably, players like J.T. Barrett, J.K. Dobbins, Chris Worley were notably very disheartened at that. But I think if you look at this game against USC, this is a damn good secondary game to play.
Oh, Ralph, if you are not excited to see Ohio State and USC square up here in the Cotton Bowl, then you got major problems and you ain't a college football fan. You may not even be a Buckeye fan either. I don't want to go that far and put that on people's heads. But seriously, this is going to be an awesome game. I mean, you're talking about 5th rated, 11-2 Ohio State, the Big Ten champs. 8th rated, 11-2 USC, the Pac-12 champs. This is a complete throwback to the good old days back in the 60s and the 70s, even the 80s, when you would watch Ohio State, Michigan on TV, and you'd wait to see who the winner of that was. And then the following game, USC, UCLA, whoever won the Ohio State, Michigan game was invariably going to play USC or UCLA out there in the Rose Bowl, and the granddaddy of them all. Little different scenario this time around, but I'm telling you what, Ralph, I'm excited for this football game, and I think, like you said, this I don't even necessarily, I mean, this is a consolation of sorts, but if you're going to have a consolation, this is a pretty darn good consolation.
And it's a great treat for us fans, too, as well, as if you can see these two squads play against each other. Now, you think about it in the college football playoff, 2 SEC teams, no Pac-12, no Big Ten represented in this game. A lot of people arguably said if the field expands, these two teams would be included easily.
Without a doubt.
You know, so now you look at Ohio State, who had Oregon in 2014. Oregon now is unfortunately going to be kicking off the bowl season on Saturday as they play Boise State. But as you look at these teams, talking to a couple of these players today, we sat down along with the reporters here with J.K. Dobbins, J.T. Barrett, Tough Borland. A lot of these guys are ready. They're excited. I think right now they're focused on the holiday, getting home, spending some quality time with the family members. But when they get back from the holiday, it's going to be 3 days. And it's ready, 3 to 4 days rather, and it's going to be all business.
Yeah, and you want these kids to be able to celebrate holidays and do stuff like that with their family and whatnot. But certainly this is going to be a huge game to get ready for. So we talked with a couple of guys. In fact, Johnny Dixon and Paris Campbell both said now that finals are over with, they don't have any more homework. They can just go home after this, pop on a video game, do whatever they want. It's a little more of a bit relaxing feeling knowing that you don't have to take care of your homework when you get home. Rather, you can kind of prepare either, for this bowl game, whether it be, mentally, physically, or just go home and relax and do whatever.
Players like Jerome Baker, Sam Hubbard, these guys are underclassmen that could potentially take that next step up. Who do you anticipate maybe heading towards the NFL draft?
Well, certainly when you come to play for Ohio State, you're not only coming to achieve an education as a student athlete. Yes, sometimes we do forget about that student part when we talk to these guys. But you're also coming to play some football. And a lot of these guys on Ohio State, they certainly have dreams and aspirations. I'd say pretty much every single one of them. Urban Meyer, when he recruits a next man up mentality, and he came in to Ohio State saying, I want to recruit every single guy I bring into this program. I want them to have the ability that I at least see in them to play on Sunday. Certainly a guy like Sam Hubbard, boy, not that I want to see him gone, but if he stays another year, I really don't see the reason in that, aside from maybe trying to come back and win a national championship next year. Otherwise, he has got Sunday written all over him right now. Jerome Baker, however, I think he took a little bit of a step back this year. I think you will see him return next season, which is good because you're going to have Chris Worley leaving. He's a fifth-year senior. He's gone for sure. So some of these, though, underclassmen, you've even got guys like a redshirt sophomore and Mike Weber who have the potential to leave. So, we asked him after the Big Ten championship, hey, is that on your mind at the end of this season? He didn't really give a direct answer, but he did say that it's been his dream since he was a little boy to play in the NFL.
And that's a big thing, too. I think if you look at Mike Weber, obviously, and I don't want to put any inference into Mr. Weber's decision at all or anything like that, but you look at J.K. Dobbins, who's had a fantastic year. He's Ohio State. He's got 1,000 yards rushing. Mike Weber's a little bit underneath that. Maybe didn't have the best year humanly possible, but the future's with J.K. Dobbins. The keys are with J.K. Dobbins, and I think Urban Meyer's quite okay with that, especially with seeing how Dwayne Haskins and Dobbins play well together. But, if you had to make a pick, Andy, I tend to disagree with you a little bit on Jerome Baker. I think he had a good year. I think he could go for Sunday. However, I think he does return because the keys to the defense are his. He's going to be alongside with another great kid that we talked to today, Tough Borland. He's going to be alongside of this great young defense. They're going to be fast, and they're going to look to hit somebody. Who do you think is going to leave, if anybody does?
Well, and certainly Jerome Baker has the skills and the abilities to take it to the next level. If he were to leave this year, there's no doubt in my mind that he probably would get drafted. I think it would be a late draft pick, though. I think this year hindered his draft chances a little bit. But he comes back next year, I definitely think he's got the tools capable of proving that he is one of the top, few linebacker picks in the following year's draft.
We switch gears into next week. The Buckeyes will stay in Columbus until December 23rd, I believe, when all the players return home. The players come back on the 26th, travel down to Dallas on the 27th. I believe was the timeline.
Something like that, yeah.
And they'll have their walkthroughs and they'll get ready for their big game. What are you most looking for out of this one?
I think this is going to be a Donnybrook, Ralph. I really do. I think you could see just a straight-up offensive slugfest. You've got Sam Darnold. You've got Ronald Jones, the running back there at USC. The Trojans have a high-powered offense, not as high-powered as the Buckeyes do. When you look at Ohio State, what J.T. Barrett has done, I think these two teams are really going to be slugging it out. But defensively, that's where there's a little bit of a difference between the two teams. USC's defense, they're like the fourth or fifth rated defense in the Pac-12. Ohio State has one of the best defenses in the Big Ten and one of the best in the country. So I think that if Ohio State can, do some things on that defensive line, which we've seen, guys like Sam Hubbard, guys like Nick Bosa, Draymond Jones, the list goes on and on, Tyquan Lewis, Jalen Holmes, if they're able to create a disturbance on Sam Darnold, it might be a long day for the Trojans, and we could see a big Buckeye win.
I agree with you, and I think, it's going to be a slugfest. I'm not ready to pick a winner yet.
Neither am I.
Necessarily.
Neither am I. Nope.
But make sure you guys stay with us here at Columbus Wired. It's not the last time we're signing off for 2017.
No.
Now, we'll be around, maybe. Who knows?
Hopefully.
God willing, if we get through the holidays. That'll be it from the Woody Hayes Athletic Center. For Andy Evans, my name's Ralph Schudel. We'll see you next time.
Merry Christmas.